Hey guys, hope you're all doing well today. I've had a couple comments on some of my recent videos as well as during my live streams asking about my Tactician build, and I'm going to go over both of the Tactician builds that I have on my main character for you today, so I can always reference this video for you guys to go back to in case you're asking about what I run for Tactician. And for the first build that I like to run, I like to use the Barrett's chest piece for Tactician and the Inventive Backpack. I will go over each piece with you guys individually, but first I'd like to explain that you can run Tactician builds many different ways. I like to run the Barrett's chest piece because it has a unique talent for when none of your skills are on cooldown. You can also run just a basic Tactician chest piece if you're doing classified, and you can unlock the 5 pieces giving you that additional 5% skill power and skill haste. Going over the weapons first, I have a lightweight M4 with competent, talented, and determined. I like to use this to unlock talented, and then I will switch over to the tactical ACR if I'm going against elite enemies. The tactical ACR does have a lower gear score. This is because I crafted this one. If you use ferocious destructive with your skill builds, it will complement your skills, meaning your skills will do increased damage to enemy armor as well as elite enemies. And I like to have determined on the bottom of both of my weapons to make sure that I'm always getting my skills back faster. But you can run talented on the bottom if you would like to. For the pistol, I always have my trusty cool-headed pistol on me. You won't really need to use this with your skill build because your skills are going to be coming back a lot faster anyways. You're going to have a lot of skill haste on the build, so you don't necessarily need a cool-headed pistol, but it is nice to have if you're trying to farm back your ultimate quickly, and you can use this pretty much on heavies or any NPC, really. And we're going to move on to the chest piece. Like I said, I'm running a Barrett's Bulletproof Vest. This is, of course, on electronics. All of the gear will be rolled to electronics. The major attributes are skill haste, enemy armor damage, and increased kill XP. Ideally, you would want ammo capacity, but since you're not doing too much damage output, it really doesn't matter what you have for a minor attribute. And all of my mods on this build are going to be electronics with skill power. You can also use electronics with skill haste if you would like to. I would just prefer electronics with skill power because it's going to make your skills do the most damage output that they can. Moving on to the Tactician pieces, starting off with the mask. My mask here is rolled to electronics, of course. The major attribute is skill power with Distorient Resistance as the minor. Your minor attribute really doesn't matter as much. For the major attribute, if you're running a damage to elite build, you could change this to enemy armor damage. But I share this mask between both of those builds, and I would rather it just be skill power for the sake of both builds. But if you're running strictly a damage to elite build, you can absolutely just do enemy armor damage here. And then for the electronics mod, I have electronics on skill power. Moving on to the knee pads, I have electronics knee pads rolled to skill power, and you'll definitely want to make sure you have a minor attribute rolled towards damage to elites. This is a big number here to have for knee pads, and you're almost always going to encounter an elite at some point using your Tactician build, so I would just recommend having damage to elites rolled there. And then we have electronics on skill power, and then my performance mods on this build are sticky bomb damage. You can use seeker mine damage or turret damage. It just depends on which offensive skill you're going to be running the most. So this is a total personal preference, but I personally like to run sticky bomb damage, but I will occasionally switch them to seeker mine damage if I'm running a relentless backpack. For this particular build, I'm running the Inventive Backpack. The Inventive Backpack is going to increase skill power by 15% while you're at full health. I have an electronics roll here with skill power and disrupt resistance. My mods are going to be electronics with skill power and sticky bomb damage. This build can be really tricky when you're solo. I would recommend if you're solo to switch to a relentless backpack, and I'll show quickly what the relentless backpack does. But basically you're going to receive healing for 5% of the damage dealt that's done by your skills. So this is a better backpack to use. For example, if you're doing solo legendary missions, that way you're always going to have some source of healing and you're not only relying on your ultimate, but you are going to be, of course, doing less damage output because you're missing out on that 15% from the Inventive. So Inventive is best used when you're in a team, I would say, but it's a very strong backpack to use for your first initial skill. Moving on to the Tactician gloves, I have enemy armor damage, skill haste, and health on kill for the major attributes. Of course, these are rolled to electronics. The gloves do not take any mods, so we don't have mods here. Our next piece is going to be the holster. The holster is fully optimized, of course, and I have skill haste here. For the mod, we have another sticky bomb damage mod. Now let's go over the build in the character screen. Our electronics are 10,000 and 14. We don't care too much about our weapon characteristics here. We have 16% damage to elites from the knee pads, 14% enemy armor damage on the build overall, 5% health on kill, and our skill haste here is 40%. This is a very great number. You can increase this with skill haste mods if you would like to, but there is a skill haste cap in the game. I'm going to go over the PvE mod. I'm going to go over the PvE build very quickly. As you'll notice, everything here is pretty much exactly the same. The only difference here are going to be these mods. I have purple damage to elite mods here. You can only obtain damage to elite mods in the purple rarity. These are 213, so note that we are losing out on about a little less than 1,000 electronics, but that doesn't matter as much because this is primarily for elite NPCs, so I like to use this during my solo legendary builds. Usually with my damage to elites build, I like to use the Relentless backpack and I will use Seeker Mine damage mods instead. I'm going to receive a fair amount of healing in the legendary missions, which can be very, very helpful, and it will save you many times. So as you can probably gather from this build video so far, although I have my two main loadouts for Tactician, I do still change these builds up frequently. The only difference between these builds are the mods, but I can change out any piece I would like to at any time. For example, the chest piece or the backpack, I can change those out depending on the mood that I'm in or the content that I'm playing. I'll go over the talents here very quickly. I always recommend Strike Back. It doesn't matter what kind of Tactician build you have, Strike Back is going to help you get those skills back faster. I like to run Demolition Expert because anytime I damage a hostile with an explosion, I'm going to receive 20% more explosive damage. I always like to run Death by Proxy. This is when you destroy an enemy skill, you'll receive 20% more skill power for 30 seconds. And then Chain Reaction as well is a must-have if you're doing Seekers. You're going to receive more damage from explosive kills. Other talents that you can utilize if you would like to is Shrapnel. If you're using the Cluster Seeker Mines, this can increase the chances of spreading that bleed damage out to other targets, as long as they're within a close proximity of each other. You can also run Tech Support, but I would only use Tech Support if you're running the turret. If you don't have the turret, I would not recommend Tech Support. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the builds. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Just a few general tips that I have. Make sure you guys are using your weapons to actually get your stacks. A lot of you guys are wondering why your build is not doing as much damage as I am. Remember that the Tactician build bonus is getting stacks, and you can get a maximum of 30 stacks for the set. And you can increase this with the 6-piece bonus, but that bonus is really just too complicated to use and it takes way too much time. So I personally don't like to run the 6-piece, but I would recommend the 6-piece if you're trying to run some kind of hybrid for like a damage build. Like if you have firearms involved, I think that a 6-piece could actually be pretty fun, and it's something that I've considered making. So maybe I'll do that sometime in the near future. But as far as the actual build itself with your skills, make sure you're actually getting your stacks. If you are using a turret, this is really easy, but I think that turrets just require a very specific playstyle. It's a little bit too slow for me, so I like to run the Seekers and the Sticky Bomb instead. But yeah, make sure you guys are actually using your weapons to actually get your stacks, or else you're missing out on 30% increased skill power, which is a very, very big number for a skill build. Really quickly as well, before I end the video, I wanted to thank you guys lately for tuning into my live streams. I have live streamed the last 3 days in a row. That is not including today. I just live streamed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the morning, and it went pretty well. The very first day we had over 20 viewers the entire time, which is a really big deal. It seems really low, but for my channel, that's actually a really big deal. I really appreciate you guys for stopping in, even if it was for a quick second to say hi. I understand that it's during the day for PST, so our time zones are not always going to be aligned, but I'm very, very thankful that you guys were able to stop by even for just a quick second. I really appreciate your guys' time and effort on the channel. I will do more live streams in the future. Just keep an eye out on the community posts for my stuff, and then I'll make sure to give you guys a schedule in the future. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Can't believe the bullshit that went down in the dark zone at the end there.
I know. We had it. Everything I told them was dead on. They made us pull out anyway.
And we left our dead behind.
Yeah, we're not supposed to do that. Hang on a second.